welcome everyone. I'm very excited to be here today with our guests. We have Cookham Maggie King, we have Miriam Kerner, Larissa Muirhead, and knowledge keeper Joseph Natauhau. So there will be 10 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions. So please place these in the chat, or if you prefer at the end, we can raise hands and you can ask as well at the very end. So my name is Joelle Schaefer. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist with the Division of Social Accountability, and I'll be the moderator for today's conversation. So we are gathered across many different places today, and I want to acknowledge the land that we are on. I was born and raised on a farm on Treaty 4 territory, and I always find comfort when I go back to the land there. Today, I'm raising my family on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. And that's where I'm joining you today from the College of Medicine's main campus in Saskatoon, alongside with Joseph. So the University of Saskatchewan stretches across our province of Saskatchewan to Treaty Lands 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. The University of Saskatchewan is committed to honoring and supporting Indigenous peoples, languages, cultures, and values that belong to the land. The land is acknowledged as our mother, the earth. All of us who call Saskatchewan home are also treaty people, and we each hold a responsibility for the relationships and promises of the treaties, as well as for working towards mending colonized lands and protecting the land. So welcome to the Health Equity Webinar Series. This is the second one of this year, and we focus on the priority health concerns of Saskatchewan communities. So the Division of Social Accountability hosts these webinars, and we are very, very fortunate to have our community guests today for Peat's sake. So I am just going to, throughout our conversation today, post links in the chat, and that will provide you opportunities to connect with myself or with For Peat's Sake, as well as to engage in evaluation and other opportunities. So I do want to say before we get into today's discussion, there may be sensitive topics covered. So please make sure you're looking after yourself, and if you have to step away, please do so. I will provide some additional supports in the chat here as well, or please connect with a counselor, friend, family, or elder. So to open our conversation today with an opening prayer, I want to have Joseph Natauhau lead us off, a Plains Woodland Nehio from Sturgeon Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Joel. And I have a little character looking at me. It's a llama here that Joel has, a little llama staring me down. It's cute. One time I did an exhibition in Prince Albert, a llama actually bumped into me. It was running loose, you know, they had llamas at fair days. Yeah. And one of them, they said, "Get out of the way." But it's too late. It bumped into my shoulder. Never forgot that. And here's a little llama to remind me. So tatamskat na agakyo. Iguayakan, the Naskamawagaya. I'm motak. Tanti iyo, chiti ko may no motakait. Kamamskotakom aski kataskino, land acknowledgement. Eitu akmana, land aski, esawa kotama, the way that we're related to land. And Saskatchewan. So in our way, we say kiss, it's an extended kiss, right? Kiss Saskatchewan. So we don't really, there's that I is silent. So kiss Saskatchewan. It sounds like, yeah.
Not kiss it.
Yeah, kisses. Kisses, you're saying uncle or something like that, or, you know, Uncle Saskatchewan, Uncle Catchwan. Uncle Catchwan.
Saskatchewan.
Kisses is like someone's telling you, go see her. Kisses. So I'll open it up with a prayer, and thank you for inviting me to this, because my heart is partly up north because of my mother's side, and I always restore myself by going up there because of the land and the trees and the water. And that's what happens when I go up there. And the people also there's a different characteristic about them. They're very calm and silent because they have the land and the water they can go to for refuge. So I think about that when I think of the North. So say a prayer that it remains in the way that it provides healing and energy and food and, whatever people need. I'll pray, may send my prayers out in that way, so that it keeps us restored. It keeps us energized, it keeps us healthy, and keeps government out of there. I know they're there, but they need to understand that people there live there, and they have to live with what government sometimes decides to do, and sometimes it's in conflict. So I'll pray for harmony and balance, thinking about that, because people need to work as well. Aha, mamutai mauksiman togaksi watsin. Hego mina new kohta big. 4 directions, 4 elements. Kakegigwe. Newo. Kaisen stutamak. Kaisen stut. Isik skate mak oye koichi hayak. Nego no kiano. Atus skagalik. Be which my aga built up ngako. Ego mina yak oye. Wihon ka spikas ut nihio wihon apo Sagawino ga po Muskegs Ego minuti otse Pasquawino Kia nom ga ni hiawiak Maga Apitovos Sanagwinik de Hayog Meiti Ego minapita toino Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, Nishnawbe, Dene, Mitchif Ego nuko kakio Wisto Euta Imam Tanema kom gagi Simon We all wahotamagotaminaski Wisto Yksi pääkeisys kaikissa muttamaan muina ustuta kaikki joka kuja miuitsiitoa getting along together. Saagiitoa coming to love one another. Ja coming ja katemagiitoa to have empathy with each other as well. Minä siwatutak siwatsiak siwatutak to have kindness and respect for one another. Ik zoom tegi se mamtanehta makik nu man kai uitama guakom ke musom no kokom no matutsani apite guan no moi aiwa tipe ake konan ke mamtanehta me au ye kai sino ka ku wichi heta ku opna mot matson apoka ku ya ka ku wichani to ya das goed succes das goed om mania no komagna kake o nisanek sometimes is mamtanehta maki go got the sekama exum dipagese the magista mogu for Peat's sake I see that they go with this a ski wakutun Mother Earth relationship egoma ini is stutaman egoma kaito kapsita tsigomota naskomo in Jimskakok the Kiwitnok Northland I see no some went and kisnats skate a hot and semane kucham no wap skuyo is mamtaneta and says it the swata kitaskino kion ganot ota kigawi noski I dayton damskat no rakio. Greetings everybody.
Thank you, Pray.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph.
You can find somebody to translate that, up there. It says it all. You'll have to find a Greek speaker.
So thank you very much. Moving into our topic, I do want to do brief introductions to our 3 guests today. So for Peat's sake, Protecting Northern Saskatchewan Muskegs is a grassroots organization of Northern Saskatchewan community members, Saskatchewan citizens, Lac La Ronge Indian Band members, committed to protecting sacred muskegs, also known as peatlands. So I reached out for Peat's sake in the fall of last year, and I am very, very grateful that the group were open to meeting with me. So we have a mandate to address the priority health concerns of Saskatchewan communities and both decolonization and environment and climate are identified as health concerns. And so over the past few months, in a few meetings, I have learned a lot from the speakers here. I've been inspired in the conversations, and I look forward to being able to sit here and continue to learn. So I am going to also share a link to the For Peat's Sake website. They have some wonderful videos and information there, and you can reach out to them through there as well. So I'm going to start with an introduction of Margaret, or Maggie King, a Cookham Indigenous advocate, patient partner, and muskeg warrior. Currently residing in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, Maggie is deeply connected to Northern Saskatchewan with a relationship to the Muskegs and boreal forests. And each of you will have an opportunity to introduce yourself further, so I'll keep it short. Miriam Kerner is an award-winning author and children's book illustrator who finds inspiration on extended wilderness journeys by dog team and canoe. Miriam is a co-founder of For Peat's Sake. And Larissa Muirhead is an artist, writer, nurse, and environmental activist based in Northern Saskatchewan. Larissa's work often brings disciplines combining holistic health, visual art, written word, and environmental advocacy to foster deeper connections between people and place. So welcome, Miriam, Maggie, and Larissa. For our first introductions, I won't put up any slides, and I'm hoping that to get us started, each of you can just tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
I think I'll go first. My name is Maggie King. I am currently residing in North Battleford. I'm Mohawk descent from Akwesasne, and my home is, I'm a band member at Thunderchild First Nation. I raised my children at Thunderchild, and I've lived in the prairies. I pretty much think that I kind of grew up here because I raised my family here. Akwesasne is my home. I don't speak my language, but I also want to thank Joe for his prayer. It's speaking in the language. We were requested to have a Cree speaker. There's power in that language. It's the original language of our people, and it also contains in there our original instructions how we are to live kindly amongst each other. And so I really thank you, Joe, for that prayer. I raised my 11-year-old granddaughter, Zena, and try to take her to as many places that involve being close to the land. We talk about 7 generations. She's going to be the next generation that's going to educate and take care of this land. So I want her to be involved. And I'd let Miriam and Larissa introduce themselves. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Miriam Körner. I'm originally from Germany, but living in Germany in the cities, I always felt disconnected. For the longest time, I didn't know why until I did come to Canada, northern Saskatchewan, and I was actually running dogs on a little muskeg lake. And for a very short moment, brief moment, I had that feeling I was exactly at the place where I needed to be, and I never returned to Germany. And yeah, being in the Muskegs has become a big part of my life. I was always craving spaces in nature that has not been disturbed. And coming here from Germany and seeing the forest, I at first thought they were not disturbed, but clear cutting is taking more and more spaces away. And the landscape has been heavily altered, but the muskegs hadn't. So I found refugees in these places, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later.
I'm Larissa Muirhead, and the introduction you read sums up quite a bit. So I'm a mom of 2 and a wife, and I've lived in Ronge, Saskatchewan for over 30 years now. Moved from a small little prairie town of Foam Lake, Saskatchewan, which is my second home, my second love. But I definitely resonate very deeply with the environment that I was raised in. And my enchantment with the forest and with the land here truly began with my father's challenge of trying to make us feel more at home when we were moved very far away from our family. And I had a lot of cousins, a lot of aunts and uncles. My entire extended family lived in Foam Lake. I moved away from all of them. And he gave me this old skeleton key, and it fit into this makeshift hole in our back fence. And he opened it up, and he's like, "This is the enchanted forest. And you can go spend time back there. And you're so lucky you get to be here." And so we would explore that space. And it really did instill this magical love for the forest and for the land up here, the rocks as well, that Precambrian shield. So very early love for the land, which I think is innately in all of us if we explore it. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for everybody who's here and listening.
And thank you too, Joseph, for your prayer.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to start sharing some of the slides that were put together as we turn to the topic. And so I'm hoping as we watch these images that each of you may be able to share with us a little bit about muskegs as well as your relationship with the muskeg.
Yeah. Maybe I'll start. Like I started out just seeing muskegs in wintertime because I do have a dog team and I spend a lot of time in those spaces. So you'll see some pictures of me and my dogs. If you move them on, Joel. Yeah, so, and these, I always felt there was something special about these places, and I quite didn't understand what it was. The trees are really small in there, but if you actually would cut one down and look at the rings, you find trees that are over 100 years old in the muskeg, and I think that's what drew me to it, is the landscape that hasn't really been disturbed. But then when peat mining was threatening areas in northern Saskatchewan, I became curious about what actually are muskegs. And through elders like Eleanor Egland, going out with elders onto the land and being in those spaces, I got the chance to see the muskegs not just in wintertime, but also as the seasons were changing, and learning about all the berries that grow in the muskeg, the plants. And the more time you spend in the muskegs, the more things you discover that we don't usually see when we drive by on the highway. You have to get wet feet if you want to go into a muskeg. We hear lots in the media about muskegs, about carbon storage, but on the photos we see in those media reports are always kind of zoomed out. But if you dive in deep, you find these sphagnum mosses that where actually peat is made out of, and they go in layers very, very deep. They grow only 1 millimeter per year. So some of these muskegs areas we're standing on have been growing since the last ice age. So yeah, one of the few things I learned about from the elders that were sharing this land, their importance to muskegs is, it's the waters that we drink, the berries that we pick, and it's medicine. It's medicine all around, and you can sense and you can feel that when you walk into that space.
Thank you. Larissa or Maggie, are you wanting to pull out anything else in regards to the relationship with muskeg? Miriam, you touched on it as a place of healing and wellness. And so perhaps someone can take us just a little bit further into that understanding.
So my first journey into muskegs was through the work that Miriam had talked about, that there was going to be this company from Quebec, Lambert, that wanted to come in to harvest the peat moss and sell it commercially. And I didn't know too much about had been on a canoe trips, and I had been, sleeping in the muskeg with, on under the hard Cambrian shield, the rocks. And when you go onto the land far away from like other people, and you see how the land takes care of you. Going camping and finding a spot to sleep in where there's not a rock that are protruding through the muskegs, and finding a soft spot when you lay in that muskeg, you just felt so taken care of. It's like being wrapped around with love from the land itself, and having that feeling, having that emotion about being cared for from the land. It also brings a responsibility that we have to take care of the land as well. So there's a reciprocal relationship that we have, and the medicines, that the plants that grow in the muskeg, like the muskeg tea, and all of these different plants that you don't see anywhere else. They're medicines for people, and they can help and cure disease. And the importance of the muskegs, with wildfires, that the fires stop at the muskegs because the land is still rich and laden with water. Yeah, that's my relationship, and how it makes me feel when I'm out on the land, and how it makes me feel when I'm together with this group of people who also want to explore the muskegs. It really brings us together. It brings our humanity out. Larissa?
Yeah, it's well said, Maggie. And just to circle back to an original comment at the beginning, Maggie, when you thank Joseph for speaking in the language of this land, there's such I just feel so thankful that I moved to northern Saskatchewan as a child. I've grown up surrounded in a community that celebrates its culture and has given us opportunity and welcomed everybody with open arms to learn about it, to be embraced by it, to be moved by it, and to settle into this community that we live in, and the communities of the north surrounding us. Most are all, like, from where I have been, I've always felt so welcome and loved, and that translates to also the way that the land communicates back to us. So the original people of this land, and that language piece, how the language describes the relationship to the land, and what a blessing to be given that pair of glasses to view the world through. That makes me feel emotional, because I know there's a lot of people that don't get to experience that. And when Ronge is in the media, it's usually not for great things. But if you come here and you get to experience being held by land, that is so beautiful. And the culture and the community, it's something that's almost impossible to peel yourself away from. Like, Miriam moved from Germany, left it, and that, I think it speaks volumes for caretaking, for love and relationship, and our responsibility here on this earth to take care of each other. And that ultimately is reflected on how we take care of our home.
Thank you. So I don't want us to sit here for too long, but I think, Larissa, what you were pulling out about the relationship and the language of the land, and how you've been given the opportunity to view the world through this lens. I want us to shift just for a brief moment to the impact of colonialism, presently and historically. It has a very tight hold on shaping worldviews and beliefs and actions. And so just briefly how that has impacted the relationships to land, the access to that love and the care of the land, and how that way of thinking continues to impact land access and ways of thinking.
I'll speak to that. Where when historically there's been we're colonized people. Canada is a colonized country. That history and the relationship with Indigenous people has been formed over centuries and generations. And as Indigenous people, we were dispossessed of the land when Canada became a country. The land that Canada gained access to was like 98% of the land mass of Canada itself. And what was left for Indigenous people, the original people on the land, was like 0.2% of the land. And out of the wealth of the country that was generated from the land, it's like trillions of dollars that have been generated from the land, but Indigenous people don't see that benefit. And so when we talk about colonization and the relationship to health and wellness and well-being, it really impacts on who we are as a people. And as speaking as an Indigenous person, we see higher rates of chronic illnesses within our communities. And when we talk about the historical dispossession of lands, the fraudulent means of losing those lands that were identified for Indigenous people, being forced to live on smaller communities of different groupings of nations, being forced onto small territories of land, limiting access to their traditional way of life, their traditional way of hunting, gathering, trapping, fishing, with the colonial laws that impacted. We were restricted from accessing the lands that our people once owned and had access to for living our traditional lives. And then with the advent of the residential schools, with, right from the start, Canada was there imposing an assimilationist policy that removed children from the homes, that stopped them from speaking their languages. Residential schools were really indoctrination factories where children lost their languages and they lost the connection to their familiar families. I'm just getting a little bit here emotional, but it alienated the children from our communities. And then there was the potlatch laws that banned ceremonial practices within communities, and we lost that connection at some point. And it's really a miracle, something that has happened, that we are still here. Like, Joe speaks his language and can speak to other people in his language, and many of us don't have that. And so those losses are part of the losses that we feel, that I feel as an Indigenous person, that has contributed to poor health. We have high rates of diabetes in our communities, heart diseases, and, the social determinants of health, housing, poor housing, education, those things they don't with Indigenous people don't see that the colonization has impacted us in such a negative way. It's different from other equity deserving communities, because Indigenous people were the original ones here. We're never going to be able to go to any other part of the world to learn our languages. It's always going to be from here, this land, and that's our connection. So once those ties were severed, it really impacted our health to the point that we are, we have the highest rates of diseases in our community, chronic diseases. And one of the things that I learned today, this morning, I'm going to give a plug to Holly Graham, and she did a presentation on the CPR of racism, in which she chronicles this whole historical colonial history that impacts our health. And she shows us a way we can get out of it, and that's not to be an innocent bystander, or not to be an inactive bystander. You're witnessing something, you're complicit. You have to speak out and you have to do something about it. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Larissa or Miriam, do you want to add anything before I go?
Well, I think the biggest problem is that the perception of land as something that provides for us for everything that we need. If you look at the slides, you saw 5 different kinds of berries that grew in the muskeg. You saw people harvesting muskeg teas. So everything that we are who we are is because the land provides this for us. And that is, something I learned coming from Europe when I came into this community and into this culture. The industrial or extractivist way is thinking of the nature as a resource to be extracted. So when Lambert peat mining came here and wanted to harvest peat so we can put it into our potting soils, at a very colonial understanding of muskeg still today, they said we're going to remove all these scrappy little trees, and then we're going to show you what you can do with your land. We're going to plant berries. You can pick if you want blueberries after or cranberries. And there was this big moment of puzzlement. Why would we need you to come here and plant berries that are already here? And I think that is the biggest lesson that I have learned. Like, what with the colonization, we have severed the cuts of indigenous people with the lands, but already before that, we have severed our own cuts to the land. And as Maggie says, acknowledging that the earth is providing everything that we need, from the air to the waters to our foods, and reciprocal in that, bringing that back, giving thanks and caring for the earth. I think it's the biggest thing for me coming here.
Yeah, and growing up in a northern community where I won't name any names, but there's some pretty big mines around here that provide jobs and really nice lifestyles for a lot of Indigenous community members. And they've been put in a difficult position where they can go to school, they can obtain an education to work in one field, which is mineral extraction, and they can go and do that work, which might not align, with how they feel their relationship, or traditionally how that relationship existed between the land. And we have people, having to make a choice. Well, if I want to live, and provide for my family, well, I got to work for this company, but this company kind of does shady things, and they're exploiting the land, they're exploiting Indigenous people, but they pass it off as economic growth and a strong Saskatchewan and all of these, buzzwords to maybe make it not hurt so bad while you're doing it. But ultimately, I think everybody's soul understands what's happening, and we can't ask Indigenous people to take on that. Of course, they're going to be a part of that solution, but it has to come from everybody seeing that what we're doing is not sustainable. What we're asking people to do is not ethical. And we're continuing this colonized worldview by having people exist in these containers. So I think growing up in the North, my husband worked for a mine for a lot of years, and I struggled with it, but it does provide you with a certain way of life that's hard to say no to. So put in a difficult position, I think.
Thank you. I think one of the things that wasn't, it was said, but not explicitly, but we talked about it in one of our earlier meetings, is that the colonial impacts and the restricted access to land, when the relationship to land is severed, it's like another relationship to kin. And so there is a grief and a loss there that is long lasting and intergenerational. And I think the counter to that is a little bit of what Larissa, you mentioned, which is you had the glasses put on so you could see and rebuild that relationship. And so I want us to move a little bit into the origins, and you spoke to it a little bit, Miriam, as well as Maggie, the origins of For Peat's Sake. So you've spoken to that, the threat of mining and resource extraction. Do you want me to play the video in the background while you speak some more, or do you want me to go to the programming presentation?
Sure, yeah, I think, so first of all, we need to understand what is peat mining. Canada has huge areas of peat. I think about a quarter of the world peatlands are within Canada. And about 12% of the landmass in Canada is covered by peat. And it's been exploited for horticultural uses. They like to put peat into potting soils because peat acts like a sponge. And that is important for us too up here in the north with all the forest fires being there. Peat can hold moisture, muskegs can hold moisture, and they can release them as well. So they regulate our waters, our rivers, our lakes. They're super important for us, but they're taken out. Muskegs are drained and dried, and the peat is taken and putting on your potting soil. If you want to just show that little video that, shows like this would be the same area that we've been looking at videos, the photos that we showed would be after a peat mine would come into northern Saskatchewan. So that's what's threatening us. That was threatening us here in Ronge, over 2,000 hectares. That's twice the size of the University of Saskatchewan complex, was threatened by peat mining. And when that proposal came in, I went to one of my elders, Eleanor, and I asked, what can we do about it? And she said, we're going to have to say no. And I thought, okay, we say no. Thanks for that advice, Eleanor, but what am I going to do with that now? But then I went home and I thought, yes, we have to say no. And we have to say it so loud and so clear that everybody hears. And so we met, a little group of us. Larissa was there, Maggie was there, a few of others, the people that are here today were there. I think 7 or so of us were there. We met during COVID and we decided we first of all need to understand what is peat mining, what are muskegs, and what can we do about it. So we started connecting with ourselves, with the land, and with other people that did not know what peat in their potting soils actually meant. And I was one of them. I went to my garage and I thought, oh my gosh, I got peat in my potting soil in my garage. Never again, but that was a long learning process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry that the video is having some trouble going, but I think we got a little bit of a view of it. Yes, absolutely. And I have to say that in my gardening as well, and it was after my initial conversations with you and learning more about this and watching some videos, I went, yes, I have peat in my potting soil as well. And so it's it's lots of learnings. And I think, Larissa, you might have something to share later on with some other learning opportunities that we can engage in regarding soil building that doesn't use peat. So do we want to go a little bit more into some of the programming and the work that you are doing to reconnect people with land? And really, how is this fostering well-being for individuals and communities and the ecosystem that you want to speak to? So I'll get this going and share it.
I think something that I'm realizing in the last couple of years is we have such access to global issues and problems. And of course, it's important to pay attention and know what's going on in the world. But it has really shifted focus out of community, like your actual home community, and where focus, you're bringing your gifts forward, bringing your hopes and building your home community into a really beautiful place for everybody to exist in. So that's something that I'm really happy. I'm happy that awakening is happening in me, where I'm trying to focus my energy. What can I do within my community that's going to make a difference and is going to leave it, or at least strive to protect some of these places that I was able to play in, these wild places I got to exist in. There's one left from when I was a kid, and I've only been here for 30 years. And creating a connection which is lasting, especially in those early years when we can get kids out onto the land, which we do in our women's Women Protecting the Land camp that we've held annually now for 3 years, I believe, here in northern Saskatchewan. So the picture that you see now were the areas that were at risk. And these are all quite close to Ronge. You can see the black lines on cluster 3 photo. And those are all just, 15, 20 minutes south of Ronge. And building an awareness within our community, we were really surprised how quickly everybody was ready to, jump in and learn more. And we had incredible participation every single year and curiosity. The pull from the south too, having people come and drive, I think some people had driven over 8 hours to come for a weekend to our camp. And I think that's so beautiful. We get to share and bring people to connect with these plants. And we always have, or I think we've always had, I wasn't at the first camp, but we've had somebody there who can tie language in, teach about the plants and how that language connects to the land. I really have just loved being in the presence of elders, especially matriarch elders, who can remember stories of early uses of muskegs and how they used them as children, or how they saw their, the matriarchs in their families use them. It's so incredible to be in the presence, because that generation isn't going to be here forever. And to hear those firsthand accounts of the importance of muskegs and sharing those with the little ears that join us is just absolutely incredible to be a part of. And if we can do that and just inspire one youth to spend more time, or to share one word, or to care and protect, that's beautiful. It's worth it every minute.
I want to give everyone a chance to speak to the programming, but I'm also cognizant of time, and we're coming up to about 1:15 now. So while we're talking about the programming, can I also add another question in, which is, in the context of our conversation, and knowing that we have future healthcare providers, current healthcare providers, and teachers joining us today, what do you hope a healthcare provider would take away and do with the information today, or with the programming initiatives going on?
I think like one amazing thing is, and one of our elders, Eleanor, she's always doing that. If the kids are in school and they're having all sorts of issues, they're wired up, they can't focus, she takes them out in the Muskegs and makes them lay down there. And when she told me that story, I thought, oh, what's this gonna do? But when I took those kids into the Muskeg and I saw them lay down, and I saw kids that were, what are we gonna do here? I'm bored, I don't wanna be here. And I don't know when the switch happened, and parents will look at us in total amazement. He never sits down. He never, and there's kids falling asleep in the Muskeg. It's like, they were being held. They were being held by Mother Earth. And I think that is something that we didn't go out to heal those kids. The land did. And I think that is what we hope, maybe I hope that healthcare providers would see, and we have that. We have, nature therapy is more and more being prescribed. Instead of giving medication to go out in nature, we have forest bathing. So to understand that connection with the land, it's like the healing can just take place on its own without us being present. We just need to provide the space where people can engage with the land.
And also, if you have a choice, I wrote this down this morning. If you have a choice in ways to live and products to use, you have privilege, and to use that in a responsible way so that you're not exploiting, peatlands, or you're not exploiting different environmental ecosystems. And it's really difficult, but it's something as simple as like, well, maybe I'm going to stop shopping at Amazon, and I am in turn going to try and source this locally. Or I'm going to ask my home store and my local greenhouse, have you explored peat-free alternatives? And being that voice, because the more people that we have asking for something, which we know will drive change and will drive, like, that's just the responsibility that you have to educate yourself a little bit on these topics and to move forward with a care and a kindness for the environment that you are affecting by choosing this avenue. We have limits. This earth has limits, and the focus is so heavily on growth, economic growth, and expanding, and that's the only way we see value. But I just can't express the value of putting your bare feet in a muskeg and feeling that exchange happen, and that pole will change your life. I can't make a medical claim, but I can speak from experience. It's something that I think we have to be cognizant of, that as healthcare providers, and as a nurse, I feel a great responsibility to help people connect with land, because it is the thing that holds us, the thing that supports us. And we all have spirit, and taking care of that part of ourselves, I believe the damage that we're doing environmentally is reflecting on our overall health, which Maggie spoke to as well. The determinants of health and the disparities between care for Indigenous people and the conditions that they have to endure because of colonization and disconnection from language, land, culture, all of that. Knowing that as a healthcare provider and letting that lens and that worldview help shape the way that you treat and care for your patients, it's vital.
I just want to add that the muskegs that we looked at in terms of the spatial areas that on the map, that's just a small portion of the ecosystem that our muskegs belong to. It stretches right across Canada. And so when we see use the colonial lens to look at what can be extracted and exploited from the earth, we're we're missing the biggest part, and that's the purpose of the muskegs and the purpose of what value the muskegs have, you know, in terms of providing medicines, providing well-being, clean water, the things that are so important to um, our health is basically are we going to have clean water? Are we going to have a good air to breathe? Are we going to, you know, be able to provide sustenance? And unless we take care of the land, we're not going to have that. And so thinking more about how big the muskegs are, the purpose of it, and we also have to reflect on our responsibility to take care of that land, because it's not for us, it's for the next generations that are to come. And when we look at 7 generations concept, we're the recipients of our ancestors who took care of this land, who nurtured it, and who provided it for us to be here at this moment. Both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people have ancestry connected. Where you take your ancestry, you follow that back. That's where you understand where you come from. For us, it's right here in this land and in this continent. And we have to think about our responsibility to take care of this, not for us, but for the future generations, 7 generations down the line. And so having that purpose in life, it really expands your responsibility. It makes you accountable to how your values, what your values are in this life, and how you're going to take care of one another. And, you know, going back to Joe was saying his prayer about how we have to work and get along with each other and love one another. It's something that's a real force and power that we have within ourselves as individuals to have that purpose in life, to take care of one another. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This conversation has had so much. There is so much held in the words that have been shared here. And so I want to thank each of you very much for sharing that. I think we have been very fortunate to have the knowledge provided here, but also I think we could be here for many hours listening and learning. There is no questions in the chat right now. There are some very kind and thoughtful comments, so I invite everyone to read those. But I will pause and just see if there's any questions. People are welcome to raise a hand and then we can unmute. And please stick around, even if you don't have a question. We are going to have Joseph close out our event as well and our learning today. Yeah. I'm not seeing any questions, but please reach out if something comes up. There's lots of links in the chat as well. You can email us or connect directly with For Peat's Sake. On behalf of myself, the college, the university, as well as all the attendees, thank you again, each of you. Here's an evaluation. We love to always improve and do better, and this helps guide our work, so please fill out. And I'm going to invite Joseph to close us out here.
And you fill that out.
Can I say something before he closes?
Please.
Okay, just about the event coming up on March 28th in Saskatoon, right there at the University Education Building. It's on the website. So if you click the link for the website, go to events, and it's listed there. The registration is there and information on our presenters. So we have the university's Brian Mood speaking on the importance of muskeg ecosystems and the work that the university has been doing research-wise, and just information essentially on peatland ecosystems very open for questions and everything. And then we have, for Pete's sakes, Elizabeth Bacole, who is going to be showing you how to create a peat-free soil mix for your gardening this spring. So very, we've got verbal, but then we also have hands-on. It's welcome to everybody. All ages are welcome. So please register and come. It'll help. We ask that you register just so that we can get the right numbers for soil mixing. But that was it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larissa. And I'll try and make sure we get the right links, or maybe someone just shared it and yeah, Natalia, thank you very much. Make sure that gets sent out as well.
Thank you for showing my niece in there, Vanessa Higgin, there, and Elizabeth Bacoli. I work with her as well. So there's people that I recognize in some of the photos, the grandmothers. It's so beautiful to see. And what come to me was if there was a poster to be made, for example, as a way to create awareness, it would say, before you colonize me, ask my family. And then you list all the plants and animals that live in those areas, before you ask, and that would be several of them. And you also have a spiritual aspect, as we know, with the land, Listapio, the Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever, that spirit is a protector of lands like that. They're protectors of the forests. So we need to put cloth out there for those. And also the Mimiguisuak, little people, we call them Mimiguisuak. So those are the ones that watch over the water, the little tributaries that go through between Muskeg to Muskeg, river to water body. So those are things to keep in mind. And I wanted to sing a little song because this song is a song that I gave to my mother. It speaks to the earth. And being an artist, I always try to frame things around singing or writing or trickster poetry or trickster posters. Something to trick the mind, make people stop and think before they act. So this song is a song that came to me, and it's a blessing from Mother Earth. And Mother Earth actually acknowledged this song. There's a spirit we call Mother Earth, a deity, said, this is my song. So this is my song that I gift to you. If anyone wants to sing it, they can use it, it would be like an anthem. And the first word is a ski, land or earth. Second word, oma, this, oche, that, kiano. We are from the earth. Second line, a ski, earth, awa, her, I guess you could say, or that presence. Kigawino is our mother. Earth is our mother. And the last line is the same as the first one. So this is the song. If you can apply it, use it on your website, that's okay. It's my mother's song that I gifted to her because my dad passed away several years ago. And my mother was left with some songs, but none of her own. So this is a song I've gifted her. Askioma ochekiano, askirawa ke kawino, askioma ochekiano, askioma ochekiano. Askia wake kawino. Askio mawuche kidano. Yeah, yeah, oh, hey. Yeah, 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 oh, hey. Yeah, yeah, oh, hey, oh, hey. good song to learn and to sing when you're out on the land, to keep it restored and protected. The old people say that we're halfway in terms of colonizing the planet to humanity, for humanity's sake, not animals or trees or anything. And it's becoming law that trees and plants and animals they're considered legal entities. So that's happening, which is really good. There's some positive steps happening, but they said 50% of the land is still in its natural form. And the other 50% is colonized, and it's mined, it's extracted, it's just totally annihilated, and it's probably useless for thousands of years. So if we don't look after the 50% that's still thriving, and that's what I see here, this other will take over. The colonizer will have destroyed the planet. And the old people say from this point on, we have to reverse that and restore, because the land is also affected by climate change. So the land is drying up south, going north. So any way to preserve that water, the land, through the muskeg, that has to happen. That cannot be touched. It cannot be at all developed. It's already there. It's been developed by nature for thousands of years, and people have protected it and depend on it. So thank you for inviting me, and that's what I'll leave you with. Okay?
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, for inviting me.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Tamskat na Yahweh.